What's up, guys? Before we get into today's upload, a major update on the WWE Releases, which started late Friday night. During SmackDown, Xia Li, Jinder Mahal, and several others released by the company. And unfortunately, we got word that many more names were to follow this week. That looks to be the case, as recent reports are now suggesting that Van Wagner has been released by the company. This is a dude that at one time or another, WWE officials were very high on. Fans thought he had a very bright future, and now it looks like he's not even a part of the company. I'm trying to get concrete confirmation on this, but a few reputable sources are confirming that Van Wagner has been released by WWE. Again, we're hearing this is not the end of the releases. Unfortunately, more names are to follow this week. But we actually just finished today's upload, and once we were done recording, this news broke. So I thought it was a pretty big deal, big enough to put this at the start of today's upload, just so you guys are aware. Especially if you are a big Van Wagner fan, it looks like his time in WWE has come to an end. So we'll see what's in store with him going forward. But that's the latest update on this round of releases, which we do not believe is finished. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I have the Raw preview for tonight for 22-24. A big return tonight that we know about, and another return we believe is possible. There's a big women's battle royal tonight. The winner of that battle royal becomes the new women's champion. And we believe this individual that originally had time off after Mania, but because of Rhea Ripley's injury, she was brought back, just did the European tour. We believe she could be involved in tonight's Battle Royal and could actually be taking the title tonight. So a return we know about and a return we believe is possible. A big Raw preview coming up in this upload. Also, AEW Dynasty just went off the airwaves late last night, a near or just over 4-hour event. I have the Dynasty results and my thoughts on each match on that main card. That's coming up in this upload as well. Also, a massive WWE star right now. I say that because his reaction the crowd is giving him, his momentum just seems to be growing by the week. But this top WWE star, we are hearing anyway, is being kept off of the WWE Draft next week. He will not be eligible for the draft. We'll talk about who that individual is and why WWE is making that decision. We'll also talk Solo Sikoa. He finally hit the milestone, the dreaded milestone this past Saturday night against LA Knight. This is a non-celebratory milestone. It's something that no top superstar ever wants to accomplish. But Solo this past weekend, he accomplished the unthinkable. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about how this could have possibly happened. I think you guys know where I'm going with this. If you follow the channel, you know what Solo did this weekend. We gotta talk about it. All this and a lot more. There's only two things left to do. Grab your coffees or beverage of choice, kick back, and let's get amplified. All right, guys, so I want to start off with this big superstar that is not going to be a part of the draft, or at least that's what we're hearing. That's the word as of now. There's still a full week to go, or not really. Are they starting it this Friday? I think it's actually starting on Friday night. So you have a few days to change your mind if you're WWE, if you're Paul Levesque McMahon, or maybe Shawn Michaels doesn't want to lose this superstar right now. Because he's such a big focal point, a big part of Shawn Michaels' NXT. But Trick Williams is arguably the biggest star that NXT has right now. You listen to the reaction, the momentum this guy is carrying and gaining by the week, by the show. Trick Williams, we are hearing, will not be a part of the draft. Now, this is huge because even your current champions, Roxy or Roxanne Perez is what she goes by now. But Roxy and even Dragunov, we are hearing, will be a part of the draft. So Trick Williams, who doesn't even hold a championship and is one of the biggest stars in the entire company right now, they're going to keep him in NXT. I understand why that's being done for NXT, by the way. They want him to be, and this is the word that we're getting, they want him to be that centerpiece to NXT. The next big guy. Basically, what they were hoping Carmelo was going to reach, those heights. But Trick is clearly going to go much higher than that. There's no ceiling right now to where Trick is going. So they think that there's a lot more still to be accomplished in NXT. I understand that to a point. I also think that sometimes, many times, you got to strike while the iron is hot. And if this dude is gaining that reaction to the point where you're getting those Trick Williams chants on the main roster shows, on Raw, on SmackDown, maybe you just got to take this dude now and ride that wave of momentum. But instead, we've seen this with LA Knight, and at first with Tiffany Stratton, they like to cool you off. If there's a nice wave that is occurring, they kind of want to shut down that wave. They don't want to ride it. So with Trick Williams, even though this is a great opportunity for this dude to get called up, it's a draft, and you're going to take the champions. You're going to take Roxy. You're going to take Dragunov. You're taking the actual champions, but the dude without a title, which would make the most sense, you're going to keep him off. Again, that's the word we're getting now. There still is a few days for them to change their minds, pencil in some people, take some out, keep some in NXT. But Trick Williams, as of now, will not be a part of this draft, which again, I do believe starts on Friday night. A big SmackDown. On the same night, you're going to get the contract signing between Cody Rhodes and AJ Styles. Moving on. Oh, we got to go to this, man. Poor Solo Sikoa. On one hand, he's involved in a really good storyline. That's the good news. You think like there is light at the end of that tunnel. You do believe that Solo is being set up for some good booking going forward. But for now, that is the opposite of the case. Listen to the milestone Solo just hit this past Saturday night. So Solo Sikoa against LA Knight Saturday night. And it's a no DQ matchup. This is perfect for the new bloodline. This is a chance for the live event crowd to really get behind the notion. Not to cheer for the bloodline. They're the dastardly heels. But to get behind the notion that this is a legit badass faction that is there to absolutely cause destruction. But instead, Solo Sikoa lost this no DQ matchup to LA Knight Saturday night. And what that does, if you've been following the channel, you know where we're going with this. Solo Sikoa, with that loss, has now hit the 40 consecutive losses in a row milestone. A feat accomplished by not many, unless you were a true, bona fide jobber, like a Barry Horowitz or a Brooklyn Brawler back in the day. 40 losses in a row. He is 0 for his last 40. You'd have to go way back to last year. His last victory was when he annihilated John Cena. I believe that was Crown Jewel, Saudi Arabia. John Cena did the ultimate deed for Solo. Not only losing to Solo, but being annihilated by him. Handed Paul Levesque McMahon this masterpiece on a silver platter. Here you go. Now you just make this dude a beast. And Paul Levesque McMahon watched John Cena go and then said, you're not going to win again, buddy. You're not winning again. Not for the foreseeable future. 0-40, guys. This is not, this isn't like Akira Tozawa. This isn't a Ricochet or an Ivar. This isn't like just like a tag team like Pretty Deadly, who's just losing 20 matches in a row or 30. I can't even picture Pretty Deadly losing 40 matches in a row, or even Tozawa. But a top star, the right-hand man of Roman Reigns, 40 in a row. We're talking TV matchups, pay-per-view PLE matchups, house shows, touring the world, losing in front of every event he's in front of every crowd he's in front of. No matter what it was, TV, pay-per-view, PLE, or live event, this dude has lost 40 in a row. We've been kind of keeping track on this since like 25. If you guys remember that, like 25 losses in a row, we were going, wait, something's wrong here. There's times where wins and losses don't necessarily matter in pro wrestling to a degree. I don't agree with that notion. They always matter. But heels especially can lose a lot more, and it's a no harm, no foul situation. But 40, TV, PLE, every house show he's at, this dude is just leaving as the loser. Subconsciously, even if you don't want to think about it this way, subconsciously we're looking at the dude like he doesn't have that it factor. He's not going to be able to carry any group, let alone himself. So now when you fast forward to he's supposed to be the man in this new bloodline, it's hard for a lot of fans not to look back at the last year and go, well, wait, how is this dude going to lead a faction if he can't even win a match? When the stakes are high or when there's only a few thousand watching at a live event, this dude has not won in months, in 40 matches. He doesn't even have one W. That's massive. Again, we were tracking this around 25, then it hit 30. We were like, whoa, 35. We were like, something's drastically wrong. We didn't actually think it was going to hit 40, especially because this new group has formed. So we thought at this past weekend's live events, you're going to start seeing that new bloodline really start to thrive and collect W's, showing every town that they're in that they're the real deal. And no, WWE is still parading Solo out there to be the ultimate loser. Massive milestone reached, and it is non-celebratory, unfortunately for Solo, 0-40. We'll keep an eye out, man. Does he go for 50? That begins with his next match. He's on the road to 50 consecutive losses. And again, that starts with his very next match. Wild, man. Oh, Raw's preview. Wait till you hear this, man. This has the makings to be a massive show. There's a big return we know about and a possible return that could be walking away with the biggest headlines after tonight. Tonight's Raw 4/22/24, we'll see the return of Gunther. We have not seen Gunther since he lost that IC title at WrestleMania to Sami Zayn. He was supposed to take a little bit more time off, but WWE is putting on a lot of shows outside the US, like next Saturday, France, Backlash, and so on. So they're bringing Gunther back. He'll return tonight. We hope this isn't just a situation where they put a microphone in his hand and he talks about his IC title reign and maybe mingles around the mid-card some more. We're hoping that he is catapulted now to the main event scene so we can start to get those matches depending on which brand he winds up on. Not like the company honors it anyway. But Gunther versus LA Knight, Gunther versus Randy Orton, Gunther versus Seth Rollins or CM Punk when they return, Gunther and Cody Rhodes in the future. Those are the matches now where Gunther has to graduate to. He's spent enough time taking on the Tozawas, the Bronson Reeds, the Ivars, the Ricochets. We got it. It's now time for him to ascend that ladder. It's time for Gunther to really make a mark. He's primed for it. He's been primed for it. And if done correctly, this dude could be a major face in the not too distant future. Gunther's return tonight on Raw. And then there's the other return that could be happening. It's not official right now. But this woman was supposed to take more time off with her husband, Seth Rollins, who we knew, BC told you, no matter what, whether it was CM Punk before he got injured or Drew McIntyre, dude was losing his championship because he's taken off for a while. He's got nagging injuries. He just needs some time off. Becky Lynch was going to be right there with him, but then Becky Lynch was brought back. Once Rhea Ripley was vacating that title, Becky Lynch was brought on the European tour, we're being told. And a step further, we're being told that she could be a massive part of tonight's Battle Royal. Because Rhea Ripley vacated that title last week, WWE issued a statement saying that next week, which is tonight, they're gonna honor a new champion. They're not gonna draw this out with a tournament, thankfully. We do this too many times with a tournament, and 8 weeks later, we come to a conclusion we could have came to in the first week. So I'm glad they're just putting everybody in there, which we knew they were going to do anyway. And whoever is last standing, just crown somebody a new champion so we can start intriguing storylines. We don't need 8 weeks of a tournament. We need 8 weeks of a fun storyline. No matter who they put the title on. We thought it was going to be Liv Morgan. Made the most sense, right? Because that was the next story for Rhea. So it makes sense that Liv would get the championship. When Rhea comes back, it's the same story. You're just flip-flopping the champion. Rhea is now the challenger. Liv has the title. But then we heard Nia Jax or even Shayna Baszler, a wild card, could win this thing, shake things up. But now the latest word we're getting is she was being brought back for the European tour this past weekend, Becky Lynch, and that she could be brought in for the Battle Royal tonight. And if that's the case, you got to believe she has signed a new contract with WWE. The I's have been dotted, the final T's have been crossed, and that Becky Lynch could walk away as the champion, not Liv Morgan. Again, doesn't make much sense because Liv was the next story for Rhea. So if Becky wins the title, you're kind of going backwards, not forwards with Liv. You're going backwards to WrestleMania, which Rhea already defeated Becky. So is this like a consolation prize? You did the job, she got injured, now we're going to give it to you anyway. We're hearing that this is being done because Paul Levesque McMahon feels there's a void with a top female star on Raw. Well, give Liv that opportunity, I say. You don't got to always fall back on people like Becky. Let Becky be at home with Seth and be on a vacation. Heal up. But Becky was brought back for the European tour, and it looks like Becky could be a part of tonight's Battle Royal. Again, not confirmed as of this recording. By the time you guys listen to this, of course, it can be confirmed. And when it goes live tonight, maybe Becky's not even a part of the match. That's what we're hearing, though. Becky had to come back early. It's like a Moxley situation where Mox was going to go on a long hiatus, half of that time spent on vacation with Renee, and then CM Punk. That whole thing happened, and then Mox was asked to come back early. And Mox was like, all right, company dude. So Mox came back instead of going on his hiatus. Looks like Becky Lynch. It might be the same thing. Don't be shocked if two things happen tonight. Becky is in this Battle Royal, and Becky somehow wins this match. That is what we know so far. That is a possibility. Gunther is a definite return. Becky Lynch is a possible return. Also tonight, you can expect a massive storyline development with Chad Gable, and he, of course, last week in the main event, losing to Sami Zayn, but then absolutely snapping and turning on Sami in front of family and friends right there in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. So we expect that to really heat up on tonight's Raw, and a tag team championship match. I don't agree with this matchup for many reasons. It's Awesome Truth, your new champions, taking on challengers DIY, Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Wrestling Gargano. The problem with this is it's two face teams, so you're just splitting the audience from the jump. There's no reason to always pit faces versus faces, because just like a heel versus a heel, where a heel is going to out-heel the other heel, a face team or a face individual will always outface the other. So it's not going to do anything for either. You're splitting the audience. One will come out a little bit better than the other, and you got to feel sorry for the one that didn't edge out the other. Hopefully that makes sense. I don't like these face versus face matchups. And on top of that, I believe they're in Columbus, Ohio tonight, 12 days away from Backlash. Miz is from the area, so maybe they're going to be a little bit more heavily favorited. Everybody loves R-Truth. Miz is the hometown dude. So I don't know what that does for DIY's reaction. On top of that, DIY is not walking away with the title, so why have him in this match? Even if Awesome Truth is transitional champions, they can't be only 2 weeks of a title reign transitional, right? That's doing them dirty. So there's no way DIY walks away with the titles. So once again, DIY is in a scenario where they have a shot at the titles and they come up short. I don't understand why book DIY like this. So it's a weird match, but we'll sit back, we'll let it unfold. Hopefully it's wildly entertaining. Hopefully it's intriguing, and hopefully WWE has a master plan at the finish of this, where everybody somehow comes out looking better than they went in. Also advertised for tonight was Andrade and Ricochet versus Mysterio, Dominic Mysterio and McDonuts. in a tag match tonight. So that's what we know so far for Monday Night Raw. Looks on paper like they're really stacking this up. You got some NBA playoff games. I know my New York Knicks are facing the 76ers in Game 2 tonight, and a lot of other NBA action. So they're going to stack the deck, and we'll see if they can produce. Speaking of stacking the deck, we got to talk an event that took place last night from All Elite Wrestling Dynasty. The AEW Continental Championship kicked us off on the main show, Okada vs. Pac. Okada defeats Pac via pin in a match that bell to bell went over 25 minutes. It was not a spot fest and paced really well. Pac selling throughout. Had you actually believing the dude was banged up throughout. It was pretty good selling by Pac. Different but solid way to start this show. With the audience split over whether the main event should be Bryan and Ospreay or Swerve and Joe, this was the best possible position for Okada. He was not going to be a main event, obviously. You don't want to stuff such a big signing like Okada in the middle of the show. The start was just the only way going into this event that BC felt Okada should be in. It was really good to see that match in that spot. And again, I do believe it delivered. The crowd was pretty into it throughout. Right decision at the end. Literally, if this was a good, bad, and ugly, there would be no ugly, and I found no bad in this. So, good start to the show. House of Black was next up, defeating Adam Copeland, Eddie Kingston, and Mark Briscoe. The missed Black Mass combo allowed Black to actually pin Copeland, the champion. I'm not a fan of champions losing matches that have nothing to do with the championship, and I'm also not a fan of six-man tag matches. I'm just not. But one, the match was actually decent, and two, they kept the Black-Copeland interaction to a bare minimum. I believe only facing off for the finish. I think that was the only time they actually locked up. So they preserved the intrigue for a future Black-Copeland one-on-one matchup, and subsequently for the championship. So I like that they kept that to a bare minimum. So all in all, even though the champion lost here, and even though this was a six-man tag, not one of BC's favorites, all in all, this actually carried the momentum that match one started with. So match 2, there was no harm, no foul. Going into match 3, this crowd a little bit indifferent for this matchup. This was Willow Nightingale defeating Julia Hart to become the new TBS champion. Word was that Hart was pretty banged up before the match, even to the point where Vegas took the match off the books. This could absolutely be the case, as this was one of, if not the shortest match of the night. The powerbomb put Hart away, and post-match, Mercedes Moné faced off with Willow. The match now set for Double or Nothing, May 26th in Vegas. You hate to see Willow as a transitional, but there's no other way to go here. This has to be Mercedes Moné. You cannot have her debut and lose this matchup. I don't care how they would do it. I don't care if 20 individuals were taking out Mercedes. Mercedes has to walk in Double or Nothing in Vegas and walk out with that title. So again, Willow kind of has to be transitional here. And again, we wish the best for Julia Hart if she is in fact banged up, which we heard beforehand. So, yeah, that was a cool visual. We knew that visual was happening. We knew Willow was taking the title, especially after what we heard with Julia, and then we knew Mercedes was going to come down afterwards. But that was a pretty cool moment. Get you a little hyped up. A little bit more than we were for that matchup. Hopefully they really start to ignite Mercedes, right? She debuted, and ever since, it just, you're kind of treading that line of just another person on the roster, and Mercedes is not. She's at the top of that women's roster. Now we have to start acting like it. Next up was the AEW International Champion, Roddy Strong, defeating Kyle O'Reilly via end of heartache pinfall. The assist goes to Wardlow. Oddly, by the way, if you saw this, Wardlow jumps up on the apron and kindly, gently goes back down when the ref says get down. He's like, I don't know what, I just don't know what Wardlow is doing out there. But listen, I guess it did the trick. He gets the assist. He was the Scottie Pippen to Michael Jordan, and Roddy was able to defeat Kyle O'Reilly. Post-match, Adam Cole celebrates with his boys, minus his wheelchair. A sign that Adam Cole, despite reports we just heard that he was far off from his return, he is showing you that those reports are bullshit. So you could be seeing Adam Cole imminently back in that ring. But it was pretty cool to see Adam Cole celebrating. Again, Adam Cole, rough go of it in AEW. He has not achieved what I know he would like to, and I know the fans thought we were going to get a lot more from Adam Cole. Just injuries and odd booking. It's just very odd for Adam Cole. I hope when he is back fully ready to rock, I hope this is the run that we all and he expected him to have. Chris Jericho defeats Hook to become new FTW champion. Massive assist, not from Wardlow. This was from a baseball bat. Bro, crowd was not having it. After a couple of Judas effects and the crowd chanting, "Go home, Jericho," maybe Tony should have audibled. This was a hostile crowd towards Jericho. There's good heel heat, and then there's just go away heat. Like, dude, just no. I remember like when Roman Reigns was being forced to be this top babyface, and a lot of the fans were just like, dude, this isn't just like fun booing. This is like, dude, we don't want to see you in this position. We just don't want to see you at all right now. This is kind of like what they were giving Jericho. So again, there came a time, a couple of Judases in, where you're kind of like, well, no matter what they got planned, maybe you just audible this, because this might backfire kind of big for Jericho. And maybe Jericho just does not give a damn. Maybe that's exactly what he's looking for right now. But this did not go the way that probably Tony Khan, anyway, thought this was going to go. Not the right call. All the fans in unison. If they didn't agree on everything last night, the one thing they definitely agreed on, they did not want Jericho taking that matchup and taking that championship and going over on Hook. Next up was Toni Storm. She remains timeless as she defeated Thunder Rosa via Storm Zero pinfall to retain her AEW Women's Championship. Storm's momentum is still ascending. There was no way she could drop that title or that match. So it was absolutely the right call. Will Ospreay defeated Bryan Danielson via Hidden Blade pinfall in a match already being put in the Match of the Year category. And there was already many fans claiming this should be the main event. And after the event was over, even more laid claim to that theory that should have been the main event. Crowd was lit throughout. Slow build first half, massive pickup the second half. So a well thought out match from top to bottom in totality. No way Ospreay could lose this matchup, but it just feels like Danielson loses all of his big matches, doesn't it? The dude has won 38 of his last 50 matches, which is a solid 76% winning percentage. But for a top star like Danielson, some would say that 76 is kind of pedestrian. But he does have a 76 winning percentage in his last 50 matches, 38 out of 50. It's just... man, his big matches, it just feels like he's always losing, whether it's Moxley at Grand Slam 22 or Jericho at Full Gear 22, MJF, the Iron Man match at Revolution, Eddie Kingston at New Year's Smash, or Eddie Kingston at Revolution 24. Even Dan Garcia at Fight for the Fallen 22, or Anarchy in the Arena, remember the 10-man tag, Double or Nothing 22, or Moxley again, this time at Revolution 22, Adam Page at Winter is Coming. You can keep going on and on. All of these big events, all of these big-time matchups, and Bryan Danielson loses like all of them. I get it, right? You're trying to pass some torches, maybe. Maybe you're trying to do the right thing, put some other talent over. Not like Moxley would need that. Guys like Moxley. But, you want to do something big for MJF. I totally get it. Or even Ed Kingston. But there comes a time where you also have to act like you are Bryan Danielson. I said the same thing about Cena. Every time Cena comes back, he's just putting people over now. Theory at Mania, being annihilated by Solo Sikoa. And both times it did absolutely nothing. Theory to this day doesn't really get that reaction. Hopefully that changes being in a tag team with Waller. We'll see. And with Solo, after he got annihilated, After he annihilated Cena, Solo just lost his next 40 matches. He has not won a match since. So it's time when Cena starts coming back. Cena has to start being Cena again and winning some matches. And then pass the ultimate torch when it's time. When it's time to retire, you take that one shining star and you pass that torch. But Cena cannot keep coming back and losing all of his matches. Otherwise, it's no longer special. And we don't care who's beating Cena because it doesn't matter. At this point, it's reaching the levels where Bryan Danielson in a big match, you can almost expect him to lose. So, what I'm saying is, okay, Ospreay has to win this match. I get it. But going forward, I know he's going to retire soon, more than likely, Danielson. That's been the talk, too, lately. But can you just win a couple 2-3 big matchups before you pass the ultimate torch? I would love to see Danielson looking like Danielson when the match is all said and done. And like, I don't know, crazy concept, victorious. But again, in this match, there was no way. Ospreay had to win this match. You kind of knew that from the jump. It's just watching Danielson lose again. Another big match at another big event. You just remember all those other big matches on all those other big events. That's it. I know listen, it was Ospreay and Danielson, easily could be called the match of the night, so I had to spend a little bit extra time on that. Next up was a match being described a demolition derby. This was the Young Bucks defeating FTR to become new tag team champions. I believe that's their third tag title reign, which obviously in its short inception, this is the most title reigns in AEW, I believe 3. So the Young Bucks defeat FTR, become new tag champions in Sunday's ladder match. This was a ladder match, and again, it's being described as a demolition derby because that's kind of what it was. A match so wild that fans could be heard chanting, "Please be careful." Jack Perry would return to a massive reaction. No CM Punk chance somehow. I don't know how, but there was no Punk chance. I think there was some when Bucks and FTR first went face to face, maybe at the beginning, but none that I heard anyway for Jack Perry. What else? As wild as this was, we're actually hearing that time had to be cut off of the match. So, if Okada and Pac didn't go nearly 30 minutes, and the event as a whole, in its totality, wasn't running long, is what they call it. This was actually going to have another, would you give it bare minimum 5 more minutes? Could they go another 5 with the things they were doing in that ring and outside the ring? I don't know, man, but this, from what we're hearing, there was time actually shedded from the match. That's probably best for all 4 dudes. Again, when you have a match where the fans are chanting, "Please be careful," yeah. I think Demolition Derby is a perfect way to describe it. Closing the show out in the main event, Swerve defeated Samoa Joe to become new AEW World Champion. There's no question Joe still had so much more story to tell as champion, but the wrestling world seemed to be firmly behind Swerve, so I cannot fault Tony at all for making that decision. The momentum, the crowd reaction, everything seemed to be in Swerve's corner. You just can't help but think when Joe was leaving the ring that there was just so much more that Joe could have done as champion, and that reign could have been so much more. You just feel like Joe was more than a formidable champion, more than a viable and reliable champion. You felt like he was just clicking on all cylinders. You felt like Joe was rocking out. Joe was finding that groove. And then before you know it, title changes hands over to Swerve. So it's one of those scenarios, there is no right or wrong. It's just, man, you would have loved to have seen Joe carry that longer. And on the other hand, if not now for Swerve, when and how do you get him back to that? Do you have another Joe matchup? And if not, good luck trying to piece together those puzzle pieces later on. It was a tough decision. It was obviously the build to this was so much fun, man. Swerve and Joe worked really well together. Every segment I saw them in leading up to this, it was just so good. It brought back old school pay-per-view kind of feels, right? Like just growing up on pro wrestling, like this was the type of build you would want for a pay-per-view match. especially if it's going to be in the main event and there's a title on the line. So I just can't give more praise and props over to not just the new champion Swerve, but also former champion Samoa Joe. And with that was the card. Guys, I told you several times, on paper, quietly, this is a stacked, packed, and jacked card for Dynasty and AEW. You know, WrestleMania stole all the headlines. Nothing was going to change that for the month of April. And that goes forward, no matter what show, Raw, SmackDown. If there's another pay-per-view from a company, WrestleMania is stealing the month. I get it. But quietly, AEW put together a really good card on paper. It was just, could they deliver? I think they absolutely did. There was a little bit of everything. I thought the match placement was correct. There's going to be some things that get heavily critiqued, like the Jericho Hook matchup, or matchups that maybe weren't as interesting, like maybe Willow and Hart. So I get that, but man, looking back at this, WrestleMania had all the headlines, but it was Dynasty that quietly, they produced something beyond solid. It's one of those shows that could be a jump-off point to something special going forward, but at this point, it's how many people are willing to give them a chance on Wednesday night. You know, so many of their core audience has left. Can they get them back? Did this show do enough to at least, from the jump, get back 100,000 of their hardcore, diehard fan base? To get that 750 number-ish back to at least 850 for Dynamite's rating. We'll see. That's thinking way ahead, though. This event, I thoroughly enjoyed what I saw, for sure. Captivated even at times. So AEW should be proud of themselves. That was a pretty solid card on paper and very hard to live up to that in totality, but they actually did it. Guys, that's what I got for you. Until next time, and there will be that next time. Monday Night Raw tonight, we're going to have the review. I have a feeling this is going to be one of the biggest Raw reviews we've done in quite some time, and we're going to do it within the next 24 hours. Stay locked on the channel. We'll have it for you. Until that next time, there will be that next time. Top guys, we're out. BC and his unit saying check you. Peace.